This weekend has been kind of a busy one, and I have a huge rule during the summer that if somebody invites us to their pool, I never say no. So we've been doing a lot of pool time, and that's why I look like this. But it's also why my house looks kind of messy and in transition, and that the food hasn't been prepped yet. And this is actually Father's Day weekend when I'm filming, and so I also want to make something special for my husband for dinner. So need to get a couple things done. It's 3 p.m. So I need to kind of kick it into high gear and make it happen. So I hope you'll come along with me for the last couple hours of the day so that I can get things done and still enjoy my family this evening for Father's Day.
So I started working on getting food prepped and realized I should probably film this because this is what a lot of people do on a Sunday afternoon. And so maybe you'd enjoy coming along with me. So I just put together some yogurt jars with chopped up pineapple in them for snacks this week, along with some chopsticks. And so I'm throwing those into my lunchbox. I do pack my lunch for an entire week at a time. I work 4 days during the week. And that just saves me a lot of brain space in the morning and the evening before, not having to think about it. So I love that. I am pulling some baked potatoes out of the Instant Pot. I will later bake these as well, but I just find it's really hard to get them cooked all the way through without a pressure cook beforehand. So I like to do that. And then I'm throwing some little baby potatoes for throughout the week in here to go with one of our meals. And since I already have the appliance out, it's nice to use it twice. And so I try to be as efficient as possible with that sort of thing. We are also having burgers this week, and so I'm slicing up some red onion, and later I'll slice up a tomato for toppings for that. And I'll use part of this onion for some green beans. And during the summer, I really enjoy just mixing green beans with herbs and a little red onion. And they work well cold, honestly, but I also will eat them warm sometimes. But I kind of like to make my burger into a salad. And so I enjoy doing a burger with arugula, these cold green beans, and then the little baby potatoes that I cook in the Instant Pot. And I sometimes will heat those potatoes up and sometimes I'll just leave them cold. But it makes a yummy salad if you put a little vinaigrette on top of it, and it's kind of a healthy way to eat a burger. So I'm throwing some of those red onions into a pan that I will put green beans in, and then some into a pan that I will just put a lid on, and we'll use those as toppings. But I run out to my windowsill and just grab some herbs. I have a lot of herbs that are kind of starting to go to seed because it is pretty hot. And it's kind of been an interesting summer because it hasn't really been crazy hot, but it seems like all of a sudden we're definitely in it. So I'm probably cutting a little more than I need to just because I'm going ahead and cutting off whatever has gone to seed too, because there's no reason for me to keep that on the plant and encourage it to do more and more of that. So I'm just cutting it to let it know it's fine to still grow. And then I'm using some dill, parsley, basil, and chives in my cooking today. So it's super fun to have this, and I just love the taste and the flavor of fresh herbs. It's so quintessentially summer and super fun to have some nice success with this year already. So I don't know if I'm going to do herbs in this bed again next year because they are pretty vigorous, and I'm kind of wondering if they would be better elsewhere. I also kind of think it's pretty to do herbs with flowers in pots, and so I'm kind of considering making them just like part of my containers too, but I don't know if that will look too messy for me. So I don't know. I guess I have a year to decide, so it'll probably be fine. But I am chopping up some chives, and I have this little 3-part dish out because I'm going to use that to put baked potato toppings in. That's kind of what my husband requested for dinner tonight was baked potatoes with toppings, and then steak and ice cream with caramel topping. I'm sure he said caramel topping so that I would buy a jar of it. So that was about as classy as it gets as far as desserts go. But anyways, even though it's just our family, I do like to try to make things like this special. And so I am, putting the toppings into a little container instead of just sort of like letting people grab stuff off the counter and that kind of thing. I just think it tries to make the person who we're celebrating feel special for their birthday or Father's Day in this case. So that's fun. And then I am cutting up some dill for the beans, and I'm also doing parsley. I'm just running my knife through it real quick. I probably should have cut them at different times, but I didn't. So here we are. And then I just microwave the beans. They're like steam in a bag beans. And I'm hoping that I'll have some beans from my garden eventually. But for now, I don't. And so I'm just using beans from the frozen section. And I'll just toss those together. I don't put any kind of dressing or anything on the beans. I can just always add that depending on how I'm serving them. But it's just nice to have the herbs and such with it just to flavor it up. I am also cutting up some cilantro, which I will use on tacos this week. And I'm using this little 3-part container that easily stores in my fridge to keep all those toppings. So I'll put some cilantro, and the little white flecks are just cilantro flowers. It has gone to seed, but pretty recently, so I think it's fine and it'll still be flavorful. And then I'll put some salsa in here as well. And I might put some purple cabbage. I don't know that I do that on the screen, but that I think would be yummy with these tacos. I have been doing shredded chicken tacos, but I found some chuck roast on a nice sale, so I'm doing shredded beef this week. And that's what was in my slow cooker on my counter earlier. So this little container just makes it super handy to kind of keep everybody together. And now I'm adding some sour cream and cheese to the other 3-part container to serve with the baked potatoes tonight. And I'm slicing up this tomato that I just washed for burgers as well. My husband just likes to eat burgers normally, with a bun and cheese, onion, lettuce, that sort of thing. Whereas I'm kind of into that little burger salad situation. Okay, next I am getting the stems off of 2 bunches of kale, and I will use this to make my kale salads for my lunches this week. And this kale is in fine shape, but certainly I like to wash my greens pretty thoroughly, but I want them to be dry so that they'll last all week in my lunchbox. So I'm just stemming the kale, and then I will stick it in my salad spinner. I like to cut it up before I stick it in the salad spinner, just so that once I take it out, I don't have to process it again. And then this isn't really the way you're supposed to use a salad spinner, but it has a strainer in it. So, and I hate doing dishes, so you better believe I'm going to get a second purpose out of it. But basically, I just fill up my salad spinner with water with the kale in it. And then I add a couple tablespoons of vinegar. You can really use any kind. I'm using apple cider just because it's the easiest one for me to grab, but it's not too specialty like rice vinegar or something. And I just stick a couple tablespoons of that in there, and then I let it sit for about 3 minutes. And I haven't emptied my dishwasher yet today. We kind of ran off to church pretty quickly this morning. And so I have breakfast and lunch dishes all about. So please judge away. I'm sure your kitchen's never looked like this a single day in your life, and I'm happy for you. But mine does. And though I really would love to say that I never start my batch cooking without having my dishwasher emptied, that's really not true. For whatever reason, I kind of make that activity out to be this super long, drawn out thing. And it's really not. Like, truly, this took me 3 minutes to unload my dishwasher. So let that be encouragement to you that you might as well empty it out. But I am taking the opportunity to do that with mine, and not perfectly, just kind of getting things in cabinets, okay? And it feels so nice to be able to do that, because then that means everything that's out on the counter that's a dirty dish can go ahead and get put away. And a lot of times when I'm like midway through my batch cooking, then I start to feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? And I don't actually spend that long on it. So I'm like 75 minutes or less from start to finish, and that includes cleanup. So I'm pretty vigilant about what kind of meals I take on so that I don't get into more of a mess than I'm up for. But especially if I'm also dealing with the day's dishes too, it feels a little bit like, what was I thinking? So sometimes I'll do kind of a quick cleanup in between at that point, just because the overwhelm is real and I just need some kind of surface to look at and say, like, you're clean, I'm making progress. So I'm sure you can probably relate. Okay, and so now with that task completed, I'm going to go ahead and rinse out my greens and give them a quick spin to dry them off. I spin them like 2 or 3 times, and that way they're quite dry as I put them into a Ziploc bag to enjoy throughout the week. Okay, so I think it's time for me to put what I can in the fridge just so that I don't have to look at all of that. But I go ahead and stick the rice that I cooked in bone broth in there, and then I also put like anything that's already completed. So the burger toppings and the beans and the little baby potatoes and all of those things. While I was in the fridge, I grabbed the 3 bell peppers that I need to slice up. These will be the side that I serve with the tacos, so just strips of bell pepper, very easy. And I just noticed that they were in there, so I gave them a quick wash, and I will just slice them into strips. And let this be your encouragement that you can keep your sides really, really simple, and your whole family will survive, and it will be fine. Okay, that container is a little bit stacked full, but I'm sure that after we have them for one evening, they'll be fine in order to really close. But the next thing I am doing is I am just cutting up some bacon for the top of the baked potatoes, which I will add to that little 3-compartment dish, and then I'll go ahead and stick that in the fridge so that it's ready for us. We eat at about 5 on a weekend, and so I'll be serving dinner pretty soon, but I just wanted to go ahead and get this kind of ready to go. And then I think my last inside kitchen task is to put together a quick dressing for the salads that I'll eat at work all week, which is just fresh basil from my window box and 2 lemons juiced and some olive oil, garlic, honey, and maybe some vinegar. I don't know. I think that sounds about right. A little mustard. And you just blitz that up with your immersion blender. So at this point, I think I have all of the components ready to put my lunchbox together for the week. So to the yogurt jars that I prepared earlier, I'll be adding some quinoa, some feta cheese, the dressing that I just made, some kale, and then some turkey burgers. And that will be lunch for the whole week. And this is a yummy salad that I really enjoy, and it's nice not to have to think about it every morning. My husband had requested baked potatoes for this Father's Day weekend that I'm preparing this on, and so I am just putting a little oil and salt on the potatoes, and I'll stick them in the oven so that the skin gets crisp, and then they should be cooked all the way through since they were in the Instant Pot earlier. They're not completely done, so they do need a little bit more time to cook. But this is a yummy way to make a potato, and it definitely kind of gives you more of that taste that you get from a steakhouse where the potato's really tender, so you might try it. It'll depend on the size of your potato, but these ones were fairly large, so they needed about 15 minutes in the Instant Pot before going into the oven. And I put them in the oven for about an hour at 350. I just stuck a lemonade element packet into this jar with some iced tea that's unsweetened, and I'm making myself a little electrolyte drink that happens to taste like an Arnold Palmer, and it is quite delicious. So I highly recommend that. I've been sipping on that all summer. And I'm going to clean up all of the shrapnel that has made it through every surface of this house this weekend. And, I'm always just amazed at how easy it is to just let stuff be on the floor, and then how quickly things can get put away if I just take a minute to kind of reset. And for me, it is so calming to my body to see a calm environment and not to feel like everything is screaming at me, put me away, put me away. I don't know if you feel that way, but I definitely do. So with surfaces kind of cleared off, then I'm going to go ahead and start grilling. And this means I'm getting pretty close to serving dinner, but I'm also grilling the turkey burgers for my lunches, and then I'm grilling burgers, and that's one of the meals that we'll have this week. And I like to come out to the grill with everything that I need in order to do that, like a clean dish to put the meat in once I'm done grilling it, and a couple pairs of tongs and that sort of thing, just so that I don't have to run in and out quite so much. And so I'm just lighting the grill.
Okay, I'm out here just waiting for my grill to heat up, and I'm gonna go ahead and plant some pumpkin seeds. This morning my son and I kind of like redid this area. We planted pumpkin seeds maybe 2 weeks ago, and we've only had one come up, and so we decided to do hills of soil, and then I kind of like remulched the area this morning with him, but we got too hot, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the pumpkin seeds while I'm waiting for the grill to heat up, which takes about 5 minutes.
I tend to do nothing small, so I have planted like 5 varieties of pumpkins on the back fence line, and this is the only one that's come up. It's like a little multi-gourd, kind of like you see in the grocery store, like come October, where it's like little mini squash and little green gourds and like tiny pumpkins. And so I think that one will be fun, and it's nice to know that for sure we'll have some of those, but hopefully we'll have some pumpkins to like carve and some Cinderella pumpkins and that kind of thing too. But I guess we'll see, because the first round certainly did not come up. So I don't know why, but I mean, my realistic expectations just simply do not exist in the garden. Like what I imagine it to be and what it actually is are always such different things, and so I'm just like, I guess we'll probably have to have a neighborhood pumpkin patch. When in reality, like we'll probably get 3 pumpkins, if that. Maybe we'll get one and a bird will eat most of it. But for whatever reason, I just feel like I got to plant 5 hills of pumpkins. So that's what I'm doing. And I tell you what, the dream is just keeping me alive right now, and I love it. So I am really hopeful that this will just vine out and be an amazing, fun pumpkin patch with a huge yield this fall. So cross your fingers for me. So the grill is ready, and I'm going to go ahead and get everything on there. So I'm going to put the burgers and such on first that I'm just prepping for meals this week, and then I'll put the steaks on right before I'm ready to serve them. And funny story, our grill, I mean, just virtually burst into flames towards the end of this. And so it really needed to be cleaned. And honestly, it's not something I'm super aware of, I wouldn't say. And so my husband spent some time pressure washing it, and the thing looks amazing, especially on the inside now. So I was definitely feeling a little bit like the steaks were certainly charred. Let's just say that. I mean, they weren't overcooked on the inside, so they were good, but it was it felt like the grill could never have been far enough away from the house at that point. So good luck to me and my grill. I'll turn on the hose and go ahead and get those pumpkins watered in before I call this project finished. I'm going to go ahead and turn these burgers, and then that's a perfect opportunity for me to push my son on the swing. He can pump his legs, but he certainly prefers the amount of height that you can get by having somebody else push him on the swing. So we do kind of a combination, especially when I'm grilling or gardening or whatever, where I'll push him for a little bit and then he needs to pump his legs for a little bit and try that. But these are just sweet moments, and I know there will come a day where he won't want to be pushed on the swing by me and he won't need me anymore. And so it's just special to be with him, and he just has so much joy when he's swinging. So as you can see, grill kind of about to be on fire, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn the steaks. But gosh, this was just such a eventful situation, and it felt like it got out of control pretty quickly. Okay, so I've got potatoes out of the oven and toppings coming out and just kind of getting the table set simply outside for us to eat. And I'm about to take my charred steaks off of the grill and about to light my house on fire, let's just be honest. But gratefully, I didn't catch all that on camera.
There you go. Awesome job.
So we had dinner, and afterwards, my son and my husband rode bikes to the park. And I spent a little bit of time cleaning up the kitchen and watering my garden in peace, which was kind of nice after kind of a full week and weekend of childcare and such. But yeah, it's just fun and cathartic for me to be out here and enjoying the garden. But my husband did give me a call and asked me if I could join him at the park. He needed some backup.
I just got a call from my husband, and he and my son had ridden bikes to the park, and he was wondering if I could bring them some drinks and basketball. So I'm headed that way to join them.
After the park, we put our son to bed, and I am just taking the meat out of the crock pot to shred it up, and this will be good for some beef tacos this week. And I'm excited about this. Now, I did actually make 2 of them, and I put one shredded in the freezer because we'll be going on a vacation here in a few weeks, and we'll get back on a Sunday night. So I wanted to make sure to have some things pretty ready to go so that my food prep that week can be very, very simple because we won't have much time to reset before the next week begins. I put my robot on downstairs and thought that was going to be kind of the end of the housework other than folding some laundry upstairs, but I came upstairs and found out I needed to do my sheets because one of my animals who I let live here just threw up on my bed, which I thought was pretty rude. So, I tell you what, I wish these animals had thumbs because I'd have them change the sheets themselves. But instead, I get to do that. And good thing I have an extra set so I can put new sheets on the bed and not have to worry about washing these right this instant. But I do go ahead and get them started. And I did get all the way to the point of putting the cover back on and realized that they actually threw up on the comforter, and then it soaked through all the way through the sheets. So it was just a really big moment of gratitude for pets. But hey, I guess at least this is a task that I can cross off my list for Thursday already on a Sunday. Well, I can't imagine that you want to hear anything more about that, so we'll go ahead and move on. But I am going to go ahead and just fold one quick load of laundry for the day before I call it quits. And this is always the task that I want so much not to do, and then I'm always so glad that I did it because it really helps me to feel kind of on top of things for my family. But it's amazing to me how fast it is to fold a daily load of laundry versus 2 days worth of laundry, or much worse, a week's worth of laundry. So once I've got it folded, I go ahead and take it into my closet and put everything away. And I am sorry for the condition of my closet. I would love to tell you that it never looks like this, but it actually always looks like this. So I think closets just look so disorganized, and I try to hang my stuff by color, but it still just looks terrible. And then I don't really mess with my husband's side, which is the rest of the closet. So you know what? What's important is that the laundry is put away, and even more important, that I can now put my feet up because my work for the day is done and I'm feeling a lot better about the week as I get into it. But I do want to say most of this work still had to be done the next day, so don't think too highly of daily tasks. Get them done, but just remember they're not a project to be finished. They're something that you just have to do day by day by day.
Well, thanks for joining me on this Sunday reset, kind of accidental Sunday reset. And I'd love to hear what you got done while we were working together down in the comments. So join me on the next one.